Hello again, and welcome to Pokemon Stadium 2, apparently. So, what am I doing playing Pokemon Stadium 2? Well, in order to demonstrate one of the features of Gold, Silver, and Crystal, I'm gonna need the help of Stadium 2. So, this is the Mystery Gift feature. This is something that you unlock when you talk to that random girl in the Goldenrod department store. I don't know why you have to do that to unlock this, but basically, you and another player can connect your Game Boy Colors, press the A button, and then you both get a random gift. This function uses the infrared port on the Game Boy Color, so you don't need a link cable. However, on any console other than the Game Boy Color, you are out of luck and cannot do this unless you have Stadium 2, which also works with this function. Pay no attention to the clock, by the way. N64 emulators are being weird with showing what time it is in the game, so it wound up just displaying weird times. So, the items you get from Mystery Gift, most of them are room decorations, which I will also show off, but there are unfortunately some very rare items that can only be obtained through Mystery Gift, so it's like you have to win the lotto in order to get those items, and those items unfortunately include Evolution Stones. I mean, you can get Evolution Stones in the game, but they're really awful to get, and you'd be much better off sending your Pokemon to Generation 1 if you want to use Evolution Stones, because you can just buy them there. I can only imagine they did it this way because they wanted to encourage playing with other people, because you can Mystery Gift once a day with every player you know who plays this game. Anyways, this is also the first generation that lets you decorate your room with the items you get through Mystery Gift. And Stadium 2 will even render it in 3D for you, which is pretty nice, but it doesn't really do anything special. With that out of the way, I'm going to head to Professor Oak's lab now and load up my Generation 1 saves. So, in Generation 2, it is possible for a wild Pokemon to be holding an item when you capture them. It doesn't happen very often, in fact it's actually very rare, but it can happen. In Generation 1, however, if you transfer your collection to Generation 2, you will find that all of them are holding items. So you might wonder how that happened. Well, in Generation 1, they decided to record the catch rate of each Pokemon as part of the individual Pokemon's variables, like experience points and stuff. And they do that because in the Safari Zone, it's possible to modify the catch rate of the enemy Pokemon with your actions. However, once you actually capture the Pokemon, it just becomes a useless number. So, in Generation 2, they decided to make certain Gen 1 catch rates line up with certain items in Generation 2, meaning that when you transfer your collection from Generation 1 to 2, you're going to wind up with a bunch of extra items. In my case, I've got a healthy stock of berries, I'm going to need those. And there are also some very rare items that can only be found by transferring Pokemon from Generation 1 to 2, including a couple TMs. And some held items as well. Nothing that would really break the game, but I'm still gonna transfer all of this into Generation 2. I'm actually not gonna send the Pokemon there quite yet, because in order to mass transfer Pokemon into Generation 2, the Generation 2 cartridge has to have 150 Pokemon registered in the Pokédex, so that's gonna take a while, but I'm still gonna get the items because I need them. They even had some fun with this by making the Pikachu that Yellow version starts with hold a unique item that you can only get by transferring it into Generation 2. But that's not all. There are certain prize Pokemon you get for beating Stadium 1. If you send those to Generation 2, you'll find that they're holding unique room decorations, and that's crazy. I don't know how you'd figure out where to find those, but it's a really nice bonus for beating Stadium 1, I suppose. So I'd say I got a pretty good haul. I'm gonna distribute these to Generation 2, and now we can continue with the adventure. Picking up where we left off, we'll be starting today with a lot of item collection, because in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, there are many items that are easily missed because they are located in random houses or odd side paths. Like this, for example, the item finder is found by talking to this guy in Ecruteak City. The item finder serves its usual purpose of sniffing out invisible items, but because I can just look up a guide, I don't really need it, but here it is if you want to use it yourself. I mean, I kinda liked it better when you had to capture 30 Pokemon and then talk to Professor Oak's aide to get it, but whatever. So moving to National Park, you may have noticed that there's an item beyond the fence. How do we get it? Well, there's actually a gap in the fence next to that NPC, so we can pick up this item very easily. It's a bit disappointing, however, it's a Paralyze Heal. Seems kinda boring, but there's more where that came from, because if you walk all the way around to the other side of the park and head south, you can find an item right down here. It is TM28, which, like in Generation 1, has Dig. Dig has unfortunately been nerfed, so it's not as strong as an Earthquake, but it might be useful. And on this side of this fence here, there's an invisible full heal, so you can pick that up if you need another one. And by talking to this NPC, you can receive what's actually a pretty useful hold item, and I probably should have gotten it earlier. She gives you the Quick Claw, an item which has a 1 in 4 chance of making the Pokemon that holds it go first in combat, regardless of speed. Might have helped against Morty, I gotta say, but can't do anything about it now. So heading back to Goldenrod City, there is a bike shop tucked away in the corner of an alleyway there. Now, this guy wonders why he can't sell his bicycles. Maybe the location of your shop has something to do with it, bro. So you can get the bicycle for free. He wants you to advertise his shop by riding his bike everywhere. I don't really know if that's going to get him any actual customers, but hey, we have the bike now, and you can actually register key items onto the select button. I don't know if I told you that earlier. So it's very easy to just register the bike to the select button, and then you can press select to get on it whenever, and it actually does feel faster than walking this time around. I'm still not going to use it though. So if you go into Bill's house and talk to him after meeting him in Ecruteak, he will give you a free Eevee. Kind of like in Generation 1, but Bill didn't give you the Eevee directly there. Though he did have data on all of the evolutions on his computer. Kind of weird. Makes me wonder if Eevee is supposed to be his signature Pokemon, but the Kimono Girls already use all of the evolutions, so whatever. You can also get Bill's phone number, and if you do, he will let you know when your box is full. Thanks, Bill! This was also the time when I noticed that Silver's Ghastly was 1 level off from evolving, and I was like, well, why didn't I get that done in the previous video? But it's okay. Silver has a Haunter now. Now that Silver has Haunter, it might be time to start thinking about cranking out some trait evolutions, because I've got quite a few, actually. Kadabra, Haunter, Machop. As long as it doesn't make them too powerful, I guess. So there's actually a really interesting side quest in this guardhouse just north of Goldenrod, and I'm so glad I looked this up because this is really interesting. So this guy wants you to deliver some mail to a guy on Route 31, which is not really that far away, and once Sudowoodo is out of the way, you just have to go east out of Violet City. But the thing is, he gives you an entire Pokemon with the mail attached to it, and you can actually take the mail off and read it if you want. See, the thing about this side quest is, when you go to deliver the mail, it's going to check the Pokemon you select for the mail, and if it sees the mail, then it will accept the Pokemon no matter what. So you can take the mail off of the Spearow, and then attach it to any old Pokemon and give that away to the guy you're delivering mail to. It's actually really funny. You can outright steal this poor guy's Spearow, and that's such a Silver thing to do, that I am going to do the side quest in precisely the manner I have just described. I am now a certified Pokemon thief, even though I still do give away a Pokemon in the end, so it's kind of an unconsensual trade, I guess. And since we're passing through Violet City anyways, there are actually a couple of small paths that you can go down if you have the Surf HM. And if you do, you will find a PP up and a rare candy. There are so many items like this in Generation 2, where you just go through some small paths that require HMs. They're like all over the game. It's really nuts, and I'm gonna go through a couple of them in this video. So, stay tuned for that. This is the guy that you need to give the mail to, and I put the mail on a random Oddish that I had. I was just using it to cut trees, but I have a Spearow now, so I can use that to cut trees instead. Anyways, in exchange for the mail, he gives you TM50, which contains a move called Nightmare. It only works on sleeping Pokemon, so it's really not that useful. Why would you use it on a sleeping Pokemon? Just KO the thing. It's completely helpless while it's asleep. Anyways, they give you the option of going east or west out of Ecruteak City. The game wants you to go west first, so that's what I'm gonna do. It's more convenient for me anyways. And on this new route, you can find a couple new Pokemon, including Miltank. So this Miltank has Defense Curl, which is a move that also doubles the power of Rollout, which was Whitney's signature move, more or less, so it makes you wonder why her Miltank didn't have it. Meanwhile, this route also happens to have another of the 1 in 100 chance encounters, and I'd just like to mention, since I looked this up, there is a way to make those 1 in 100 chance encounters occur more often. If you have the correct phone number from the correct trainer, sometimes they will call you up and inform you that a swarm is occurring, which is an event in which, for one day, the encounter rate of those rare Pokemon will actually go up. So for example, for Snubble here, if you have the correct phone number from the correct trainer, sometimes they will call you to inform you of a Snubble swarm. And these swarms, they don't occur at all unless you have the phone number from the correct trainer, which is not really the best game mechanic, but it is interesting to have events occurring throughout the region. It's just, we don't have Fly yet, so backtracking in order to get to wherever a swarm is occurring would be very annoying. Oh yeah, I also have radio music going because that allegedly increases the encounter rate. I haven't really noticed much of a difference though. So, on this route, we happen upon what is supposed to be a barnyard, I guess. It's full of Miltanks, so it would make sense if there was a barn and stuff. So, these farmers are having a bit of an issue with their Miltank, however. It's not putting out as much milk as they would like. I don't know why that's such a huge problem. It's just one Miltank. You've got 3 more on the farm. But however basic it is a side quest, and side quests have rewards. Now then, what do we do for this one? Well, apparently the solution is to feed the Miltank a bunch of berries, which, it seems like it would be very easy for these people to accomplish on their own if they could just gather some berries. But I got a bunch of berries from all those Gen 1 Pokemon, so this is perfect. I can feed them all to Miltank right here and now. And it has to be regular berries, by the way. You can't do bitter berries or mint berries or whatever kind of berry you've got. Just the regular old berry. And if you feed Miltank, I think, 10 berries, then you can purchase some Moo Moo milk for just 500 Pokédollars. You can apparently only do that once per day, but Moo Moo milk is even more efficient as far as HP recovery goes than lemonade. So it's actually very nice and cheap and effective. Always buy one if you can. You can also receive the TM for Snore, which is a move that only works if you are asleep, which actually might be pretty useful. There are a lot of Pokemon in this game that use Hypnosis for some reason, so that might be one way you can surprise them. Speaking of surprises, as soon as we enter Olivine City, our rival shows up yet again, but he doesn't want a battle this time. He wanted a battle with a gym leader, but apparently she's busy with a sick Pokemon at the lighthouse. Now, this is interesting because in Gold and Silver, this is the first time we see a gym leader doing something outside of their own gym, and it kind of does characterize the gym leader in question, which I think is interesting. It's a small step forward for characterization and storytelling, even though it's not that huge a step. So Olivine City's got a couple of interesting things. First up is the Good Rod, found by talking to this fisherman in this random house in the center of town. I'm just never gonna get over how all of the items you find, like, they're just in locations, right? You really have to search them out. Anyways, the Good Rod is a really good rod, so I'm gonna use it very shortly. However, I want to go into this house first because this house has a very important item. It's HM04. Yes, by talking to this random dude, you get an HM, which is kind of important for game progression, but it's just sitting in this random house. This will not come back to bite us at all, I'm sure. Anyways, with the Good Rod, we can now fish up some new Pokemon. Right here in Olivine City, if you fish in the daytime, you can capture Corsola. And all of the Pokemon captured with the Good Rod come at level 20, which is really nice. That's a much better level to get Pokemon at this point in the game. Much, much better than Generation 1. I think the Good Rod gave you Pokemon at level 15 or something. You can also capture Magikarp at level 20, which means you just have to give it one more level in order to evolve to Gyarados. I'm not going to do that though. Silver is going to capture a Krabby here. Why a Krabby? Well, you'll see in just a moment, because Olivine City has yet another one of those in-game trades with an NPC. And this one, it's not as valuable as the other two. The other two in-game trades we've seen so far were very, very valuable, but this one, I'm not sure how useful it is. He wants a Krabby in exchange for a Voltorb. Probably should give him a higher level of Krabby in order to get a higher level of Voltorb in return, but no matter, I'll take one at level 20. Voltorb might be useful in the future. To be honest though, this NPC seems to have a fisherman sprite, so why he can't just fish up his own Krabby is beyond me. At any rate, Silver has been doing a lot of in-game trading. And stealing, he's been doing that too, which means his Pokemon have a variety of ID numbers, which might come up in the future if I'm very lucky, hint hint. At any rate, here's our Voltorb. Electrode is still the fastest Pokemon in the entire game, bar none. I don't think they introduce anything faster until Generation 3, so Electrode can still have its uses. In fact, I actually have something in mind at this point, but I'll save it for later. For now, Voltorb has Sonic Boom, which is a fixed damage attack, and that's kinda helpful. I suppose it can be useful. He'll also pick up Self-Destruct very shortly. Maybe that'll come in handy, but Voltorb doesn't really have high attack power, so I doubt it. I could give him the rollout TM, I guess. Nah, that's not funny enough, I think. Anyways, getting back to the main game, it seems the gym leader needs some assistance before she's ready for a gym battle, so maybe we could be the ones to provide that assistance. What am I saying? We're the only ones that can help. Nobody else does anything until you do something. That's how it goes in most RPGs, right? It's all up to me. I am the only one capable of doing anything. And I might as well use this opportunity to get some training in because the lighthouse does have some trainers in it. Some you can't pass, some you can pass. This guy you cannot pass. Not much to say about the actual Pokemon they've got. There is a variety of types here, but their levels are not really that high. They are pretty much cannon fodder after all. Like this guy, for example. Let's see what he's got. He is known as... well, he's a bird keeper. Bird Keeper Theo, they call him, and he's got... Pidgeys. This late in the game and you want to give me 5 Pidgeys to fight. Okay. Moving on from him, there's a couple weird things going on with this lighthouse. That is actually a hole that you can fall through to the previous floor. One might wonder if the people maintaining the lighthouse would want to fix holes in the floor, but in reality you actually need to fall through certain holes in order to make it to the top of the lighthouse, and when you fall through one of them, a trainer ambushes you, but there's an item next to him, so I guess it's okay. Good thing he has only one Pokemon, or I might be significantly more annoyed that you have to fight him. Well then, once he's out of the way, we can move on. There's an item in this room. It is an ether, and you can ascend the staircase to the next 2 floors. Here we are. And there's a spinner in this room. How nice. I sure hope I can avoid him and get the oh, darn it. Well, that's what I get for being greedy, I suppose. The item was just a Great Ball. They changed it in Crystal to a Super Repel, which is okay, I guess. I think I prefer the Great Ball. So here's Jasmine, the gym leader of Hollow City, and she is caring for an Ampharos. I know it's hard to tell because of the sprite, but it is an Ampharos. That's why it's nicknamed Amphi. So she can't leave to go get the medicine Amphi needs, so naturally it's up to us. We need to head across the sea to Cianwood City. I think it's pronounced that way. The only way to get down from the lighthouse is to fall through all these holes. I hope Jasmine is going to be okay when she makes that jump several times. I wonder how anyone navigates this place. So, the next city is across the sea, and it does have a gym of its own, so we were probably going to head over there anyways. Not so bad to run an errand for the gym leader while we're on our way. Some things never change, however. Surf routes, they always have tons and tons of Tentacool. That's the problem with surfing routes, right? Well, I guess we'll have to just bear with it and sail all the way down. Now, this route is interesting because when you get down here and hopefully do not run into any more encounters, I'm going to have to run away from this one too, unfortunately. Gold doesn't have a tentacle yet, so maybe he should get one. I suppose I'll have to do that later. So interestingly, there is a landmass on this route here. There's a series of islands known as the Whirl Islands, and that's because the path inside is blocked by a whirlpool. We're gonna have to come back with yet another HM in order to get into this dungeon, but it is really interesting that they put an entire optional dungeon, and that one actually hides one of the legendaries, so that's gonna be very interesting. There is a new Pokemon on this route if you surf for long enough. It is a Mantine, which is an interesting Pokemon because you can see that it's got another Pokemon attached to it. Basically, that Remoraid, as it's called, is scavenging for Mantine's leftovers, which is a thing that happens in marine life, if I remember right. So that's a very interesting way to do it. But that does make me wonder, shouldn't I have Remoraid's Dex entry as well? Because I technically caught one of those too, right? Ah well. When we arrive on Cianwood City's beach, in Crystal version you can head north and find Suicune again. However, he runs away once more. I guess we'll have to wait to actually fight him. And then this guy shows up. I've given up on trying to pronounce the name. This time around he actually wants a fight in order to prove himself to Suicune. I have no idea why he likes Suicune so much. I mean, they never really explain it, and I kinda wish they did. But at any rate, we can battle him. And he actually has a unique sprite as well. This is a lot of detail to put into a character that you really only fight this one time if I remember right. I don't remember my last playthrough of Crystal version, so I'll have to either look it up again or cross that bridge when we get to it. He starts out with a Drowsy, which is using the same Hypnosis Dream Eater strategy that Morty's Gengar had, so yeah, basically the same deal. If you can't outspeed this thing, you are hoping for Hypnosis to miss. So, moving on to his next Pokemon, he's got an Electrode, which Cubone is going to decimate. Electrode tries to go for Rollout, which is a really bad strategy. I don't think Electrode's physical attack power is all that high. And he's also locked into doing it for 5 turns while Cubone uses Bone Club over and over again. Bone Club's accuracy is 85%, so it's not really the most accurate move, but whatever. Maybe I should be investing in X accuracies. They've been nerfed. They aren't overpowered like they were in Gen 1, but still, it could help Cubone actually land all of his attacks instead of just some of them. And the Mystical Man's last Pokemon is a Haunter. It's just a Haunter. I really think they could have upped the variety here a little bit. I mean, this is a new battle introduced in Crystal version, and look how many misses there are here. Bone Club misses, then Hypnosis misses. I need to land another Bone Club here. And it whiffs, which is not good because he can hit me with Hypnosis, but that also whiffs. So, I was able to finish the fight after all. I've defeated... Oh, I really don't want to try and say his name again. Usign. Or Usine. I don't know, okay? I really just don't know. So that house next to us is also new in Crystal version. That lets you check where you caught a particular Pokemon, which is important for friendship stuff, but I'll save that for later. We need to move on with the rest of the game. So in Cianwood City, the first thing you should do is go into this house. This is where you find the secret potion, which is the medicine the Ampharos needs. Pretty lucky that we just get it without having to pay or anything. It's not like Jasmine has a prescription or anything. Anyways, there are a couple of other interesting things in Cianwood City. In this particular house, if you go in here, you will find a guy who seems very, freaked out. Seems someone stole his Pokemon. I wonder who it could be. Who do we know who likes to steal Pokemon? Well, he hands Silver a new Pokemon, which he's probably not going to see returned, like ever. And the new Pokemon is a Pokemon called Shuckle. I forgot to show Shuckle's sprite, but Shuckle can learn Strength, so this is good for us. We kind of need it in this next gym, as a matter of fact. Cianwood City's gym is the Fighting-type gym. Take note of these first 2 trainers. They are actually positioned in such a way that when you walk between them, you're going to have to fight them both, one after the other, without saving or going back to the Pokemon Center or anything. Which is kind of interesting, but Black Belt Yoshi here has a Hitmonlee, and the other one has a Hitmonchan, so why you can just fight them both in a single trainer battle is beyond me. I wonder if this got changed into a double battle in the remakes. By the way, we have a Black Belt named Yoshi. That's so strange, isn't it? Kinda reminds me of that old rumor of Dragonite evolving into a Yoshi, which... honestly, I have no idea how a rumor like that ever took off. Unless it was like a joke or a meme or something. Yoshi appearing in a Pokemon game. Like, how much sense does that make? So, the annoying part of this gym is after defeating the black belt known as Knob. Yes, his name is Knob, I don't know why. After defeating him, you actually have a strength puzzle. This is the first time we've encountered strength boulders, and it's inside a Pokemon gym. Can you imagine surfing all the way to Cianwood City and then encountering this, and then having to go back to Olivine City because you forgot to pick up HM04, and then realizing you forgot to get the badge from Goldenrod City, and then having to go all the way back there on foot? That would be pretty awful if it actually happened. I don't know if it actually happened. Seems like something that would happen because I did forget to get the badge from Whitney until later. But that aside, it is time for the gym leader. His name is Chuck, which, you know, you can make a couple of jokes about him. The first thing he does is suplex a boulder just because he can. Well, it's not really intimidating because we're not fighting Chuck, we're fighting its Pokemon. All 2 of them. Yes, this is the 5th gym leader and he just has 2 Pokemon. First up is Primeape. In Gold version, I had Kadabra, so Primeape goes down very, very quickly. Kadabra has learned Psybeam, That's going to take him down in 2 hits. I suppose you could say that Gen 2's difficulty has several ups and downs, and this is one of the downs. Alright, maybe I'm exaggerating a little actually, because Chuck's second Pokemon is something you don't want to underestimate. It is a Poliwrath, which is a water fighting type, so in addition to its fighting moves, it's also got Surf. And Poliwrath is pretty strong, or I guess Kadabra is just very weak defensively. Due to Kadabra's low defense, this Poliwrath actually one-shots Kadabra even with a not very effective move. That move being Dynamic Punch, which, if Kadabra had survived this, Dynamic Punch actually inflicts confusion as well, but Dynamic Punch also has low accuracy. So, Weepinbell is actually really good here because it resists all of Poliwrath's attacks. The water moves, the fighting moves, because Poison resists fighting. I don't really know why that is, but Weepinbell did get hit with confusion. Luckily, a critical hit puts Poliwrath to bed. Now, as for Silver's version of this fight, Silver has Haunter, which is a ghost type. Ghosts are immune to normal and fighting attacks, so this was really, really easy. The Primeape just went down very quickly. Nightshade has actually been changed slightly. It no longer works against normal types because ghost moves do 0 damage to normal types, but it'll still do damage to fighting types. And of course, Haunter is a very fast Pokemon, faster than Poliwrath at any rate, so putting him to sleep and then just using Nightshade over and over is a very effective strategy here. Chuck has a full heal, which isn't really that helpful, because, you know, this is basically a reverse Morty situation. If the computer uses a full heal, it's right back to where it started. You're still gonna put him to sleep and cause him to lose a turn. If Hypnosis fails, I guess Poliwrath has Surf. That might do a number on Haunter, but I didn't see if it would do any real damage. He never got the chance to use it. As for Chris has Bayleaf, which will resist this Surf attack. I had actually taken out Primeape with Wobbuffet. However, that was a bit annoying because Primeape has a multi-hitting move called Fury Swipes, and unfortunately, if you use Counter against Fury Swipes, it's only going to counter one of the hits instead of all of them. So Bayleaf comes in and uses Razor Leaf. Poliwrath's got another move called Mind Reader. I think this causes his next attack to have 100% accuracy, which goes great with Dynamic Punch because it has low accuracy and can inflict confusion. Or it can also work with Hypnosis, so I'm going to have to cure that. Just no way out of this besides curing the Hypnosis. And what is his next move going to be? Dynamic Punch, which misses. I think Bayleaf is faster than Poliwrath, and also misses. And then another miss. This is getting weird. Why is the random number generator being so unfair to both parties? This is actually kind of strange. At any rate, Bayleaf closes down the match. This is actually interesting. This is the first time I've actually had a solid use for Bayleaf. I mean, Grass has just been a very unfavored type throughout this game so far, so finally, Grass got to do something useful here. 5 badges down, 3 more to go, and we're also getting the TM for Dynamic Punch. The badge will enable us to use Fly outside of battle. Now you might be wondering, where the heck did we get Fly? Just wait a couple of seconds and you'll find out. It's good that we get Fly now because we can finally do fast travel. Not only can we fly back to Olivine City without much trouble, we can also just dart around the map and get to all of those daily events and stuff that you would normally have to backtrack to get to. So yeah, to get the Fly HM, first beat Chuck and then talk to this lady who is apparently his wife. So thank you for the free HM, my lady. I do really think we should have gotten the quick travel a lot sooner, to be perfectly honest. Anyways, there's a bit of an amusing line from Chuck's wife here. Apparently Chuck has been putting on a few pounds. So we take the medicine back to Jasmine and she gives it to Amphi. I think it's really nice when they do a little side story with a gym leader, have them doing something outside of their gym and having the player do maybe a favor for them in order to earn the right to battle them. It's nice when they do things like that. It adds more story to the world of Pokemon, which is something that the series unfortunately lacks from time to time. In fact, most of the time. Anyways, we head back to the Pokemon Center and, oh look, Chris's odd egg is about to hatch. Now this can be one of 7 different Pokemon, I think, and it will always have a move called Dizzy Punch. The Pokemon in question for me is going to be Igglybuff, and something's not right with its eyes. Why are its eyes green? It's shiny! It's shiny! It's the worst possible Pokemon I could have gotten Dizzy Punch on, and it's shiny! Why do you do this to me? Alright, moving on. Gold has a couple more Pokemon to catch now that he has the Good Rod. One of these is Chinchou. This is a Pokemon that you can fish up in a couple of locations. It's got a weird type. It's both a water and an electric type, which might be useful, but I don't think Gold is going to use this. I think Gold has other plans. So where did I find this Chinchou? All the way back at the beginning of the game, and that was actually the 20th Pokemon for the storage box. So good of Bill to let us know that we need to change boxes when we have to. Isn't it nice to be able to fly around and go wherever you want, anytime? Anyways, I felt bad about not leveling up Wooper. I think Wooper is a Pokemon that I could have used a couple of times, so in the interest of showing as many Johto Pokemon as possible, I decided to level up this Wooper off-screen and turn it into a Quagsire, which will happen at level 20. Quagsire's got an interesting face, but its typing is interesting. It is water and ground, which is actually perfect for this upcoming gym battle. Don't let her introverted personality fool you. Jasmine is actually a very fierce fighter. She is as tough as Whitney in my opinion. Jasmine uses the Steel type. That is a new type introduced in Generation 2. And interestingly, 2 Pokemon from Generation 1 were retconned into Steel types. The only other time a type has been retconned is when they introduced Fairy types. Jasmine leads with Magnemite, an electric and Steel type Pokemon, and these Magnemites, she has 2 of them. These Magnemites are very mean. They have Thunder Wave and Thunderbolt, and if you are using a ground type, they've got Sonic Boom and Supersonic, so they might decide to inflict confusion. As you can see, I have taught Quagsire the Dig move, using TM28, and that's because, being electric and Steel type, Magnemite is double weak to Dig. Dig may not be as powerful as Earthquake, which Quagsire actually does learn at a very high level, but it is enough to one-shot these 2 Magnemites, so long as they don't decide to use Supersonic, which they have not. Sonic Boom, of course, only does 20 damage no matter what, so as long as you've got a lot of HP, you're probably alright. Quagsire is also part Water type, which is going to help us against Jasmine's final Pokemon in a very unusual way, like almost to the point that you'd think I was playing as Chris. Jasmine's final Pokemon is Steelix. It is a new evolution for Onix, which is very difficult to obtain, so I'm going to have to cross that bridge when I get to it. This Steelix, however, is very strange. For some reason, it knows Sunny Day. This is a new Weather move. Weather is a new mechanic in Generation 2. Basically, when you use a Weather, for the next 5 turns, the Weather effect will be in place. For Sunny Day, that means Water-type moves are weaker, which is good for Steelix because Water is one of its weaknesses. It's a Steel and Ground type. However, Sunny Day may weaken Water-type moves, but it also powers up Fire-type moves, which means it's Quilava's turn to heat things up around here. The Steel type is weak against 3 other types: Fighting, Ground, and Fire. Now of those 3, Fire is going to be the most effective against Steelix. Since Steelix has a lot of defense, using a Fighting type or Ground type move isn't going to do a whole lot of damage anyways. You want to hit through those defenses with Fire type. And for Ember in particular, it's possible to inflict a burn on Steelix, which actually did happen shortly after Jasmine decided to stall this fight with a Hyper Potion, unfortunately. There was a bit of risk to this, however, because Steelix has Rock Throw, which is a Rock-type move, and would do extra damage to Quilava. That's how Gold handled this battle. Now for the other 2. Silver basically used Haunter to defeat the 2 Magnemite. You just put him to sleep and use Nightshade, which is a fixed damage attack, so of course it's going to go through their Steel defenses. And as for Steelix, well, Silver has Croconaw. Croconaw has been taught Surf, and that's going to be effective against Steelix regardless of whether or not it uses Sunny Day. It is of course going to use that move in order to stall out the fight a little more, and Jasmine unfortunately does use that Hyper Potion if Steelix's health gets low. Most effective use of an item by a gym leader I've ever seen so far. And Iron Tail doesn't really do enough damage to Croconaw. It's not super effective against water. I think Steel is effective against rock, and if I'm not completely mistaken, ice as well. So, it may have taken some time and maybe a little bit of Moo Moo milk as well, but that's how Silver defeated Jasmine. Now as for Chris, well, I had to employ a different kind of strategy with Chris. Chris was able to get past the Magnemite using Cubone, because of course, being double weak to ground, the Magnemite just went down very easily. But I had to do something different for Steelix. First, Bayleaf sets up Reflect, and then I send in Wobbuffet. I put up Reflect so that Wobbuffet wouldn't get one-shot by Irontail, but it probably wasn't necessary because Wobbuffet then decided to do what he does best. If only the Pokemon games could be graced with the same sound effects as Fire Emblem on the GBA. Wait a minute, I'm a ROM hacker, I'll do it myself. So sometimes Jasmine will send out the Steelix second, which is what happened with Chris. And that means there's only one more Magnemite to deal with, and it tried to confuse Cubone. However, I had given Cubone a Bitterberry, which I have several of. I only used one in this fight, but still, I have like 10 of those now. So dealing with confusion is very easy. With that, all 3 trainers have defeated Jasmine and earned the Mineral Badge, as well as a TM containing the move Irontail, which Steelix had. If I ever get a Pokemon with very high physical attack power, they might benefit from learning Irontail, so we'll see. But hey, that's 6 badges down and only 2 left to go. We're on a roll here. I'm actually going through the game pretty quickly, well, as far as these videos are concerned. 4 videos in, and I've got 6 badges. Maybe I'm going a little too fast, let me know. Well, to cap off the episode, I would like to go over a couple of items and Pokemon that you can find in optional parts of previous dungeons. Now that you have the Strength and Surf HMs, you can go to the Slowpoke well and push that boulder and surf through this water to find an entire other floor of the dungeon that is entirely optional, and there are 2 interesting items you can find here. The first is a TM. It is TM 18, which I think contains Rain Dance if I remember correctly. I think it's Rain Dance. And the other thing you can find is an NPC here who is researching Slowpoke, and he has an item for us. The item in question is the King's Rock, an interesting item because it can actually help Slowpoke evolve. However, you have to make Slowpoke hold the item and then trade it. So it wasn't enough that there were trade evolutions, now there are trade evolutions with hold items. That's gonna get annoying. Meanwhile, you can surf through this pond in Union Cave to find another floor of the dungeon with more trainers, more water to surf through, and something really special if you come in here at the correct time. Now, this is only vaguely hinted at by one of the NPCs as far as I'm aware, but if you come to the bottom floor of Union Cave and surf here, you're gonna find this pond of water, and there won't be anything on any day other than a Friday. Once a week, on every Friday, you can come in here and find a special Pokemon. It turns out that it's a Lapras. So yes, instead of only getting 1 Lapras in Generation 1, now you can get a chance at a Lapras once a week, and it doesn't matter if you accidentally knock this out anyways. It's not a legendary, you get 1 shot every week on a Friday, as I mentioned. And, you know, on the one hand, it's really weird for them to require you to be in a certain place on a certain day of the week. This isn't a time-critical event, thankfully, so it's not like you have to come in here at a particular hour of your Friday. You know, there are so many secrets like this in Generation 2 that I can only imagine that either they wanted to sell player's guides, or they were thinking that if a player is lucky enough to discover something that's so carefully hidden away, they get to be the ones to brag about that to their friends when they talk about it at, like, lunchtime or whatever. And if that's the case, then, you know, it's unfortunate that I never had that experience. I just got made fun of for liking Pokemon in junior high. Ah, those were the days. Still, part of me does wonder if this kind of game design has kept its charm over the years. I don't really think it has. Still, it does make me wish I could have had that kind of experience back when I was playing these for the first time. Well, at any rate, there's where you can get a Lapras if you want one. Comes at level 20, has some decent starting moves, and you can teach it Surf and Strength or whatever you want to teach it. At any rate, this has been another episode of Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Next time, you know, I think it's time Team Rocket came into the plot, don't you? I'm Ephraim225. Until next time, everybody.